it brings up another question, which is about how that applies in sexuality, because I do hear some people talk about psychedelics and then integration. Sometimes there's a discussion around spiritual peak experiences and integration, but I don't hear people having much discussion about what do we do after sex, right? What's an integration protocol following a sexual experience, or what's a healthy and intelligent way to handle the post-sexual phase?
That's a great topic. I think. Mhm.
Oh, no, I'll take it. I'll go first then. How's that?
Okay.
So Catherine mentioned a couple of things when she was talking a while ago, and one of them was unsafe sex. All right. So this is the flip side of neuroplasticity. If you are having sex in a highly vulnerable, open state with someone, and you're not sure whether or not they care about you, that can be damaging. And I know the word's used a lot, but it can be traumatic. One of the things that we deal with in Tantra is the trauma that can occur during relationships, and a lot during sexual relationships, even when they're consensual and even when they seem safe, that weren't safe at the time. She also mentioned the fact that when people have ejaculatory sex, the interest in the other person seems to drop off suddenly. In fact, there's sort of a polarity that happens there, like, that's fine, you go to your corner and I'll go to mine. How does that affect a relationship? I've just been very open. I've just gotten to a certain place. I've gotten to a place of nothingness really for just a second, if I've had an orgasm. An altered state. And then I find myself being sort of repelled from this person. That's kind of reverse integration. That's disintegration if you're talking about a relationship. So the type of sexual encounter where we're talking about where the bodies even want to keep making love when you stop is really an integrative state where you're attracted to that person rather than being pushed away from them. But we're also very mindful ourselves. I don't think that there's a one size fits all integration. Integration is different for everybody, depending on the experience, the person, their past, all kinds of different variables. You have to make a judgment about that. But you do have to be careful about integration after peak experience or mystical experience, including one that is sexual. Your brain is once again waiting for you to say, okay, we just had that experience. What are we doing now? And how are we going about this? And it's going to record that in some way, shape, or form. And it might reconsolidate memories as a result of remembering things in that state.
I think gentleness afterwards helps integrate. Jenny Wade, Dr. Jenny Wade, who's a transpersonal psychologist, wrote a great book I'd recommend to everybody called Transcendent Sex, When Lovemaking Opens the Veil. And she studied people to whom this type of psychedelic sex experiences that we had happened to people by surprise, which could include us, but ours was different in that it kept going. And this is people it takes by surprise and just visits them and alters the course of their life because nobody knows, nobody talks about the fact that this happens. And part of her research was that people don't even feel close enough with their partners often to be able to say, oh, I just traveled to the moon. And the other one goes, I didn't. And what does that mean to your relationship if one person is having a transpersonal sexual experience and the other one isn't? And what does it mean if you can't talk about it? And what does it mean that your relationship is not that you can talk about your experience of sex? So I think on either side of sex, the integration part is we continue as a couple, whether we're a committed couple or not, we just continue. If I'm a single person on my own journey towards trying to talk as openly and transparently about sex as I can. And the mainstream culture is like, well, you'll be rejected if you do that. But if you're on a spiritual, personal growth path, how do I continue to, on either side of sex as an integration practice, try to communicate as openly and honestly as I can about what my experience was? Oh, I was really asleep in that one. Sorry. Or I was really feeling more love for you than I expected. I know early on I said to Greg, I hope you don't mind, but I'm really starting to have strong feelings for you.
I didn't mind.
I was really scared, but it was that an attempt to try to say, instead of hide it, the conventional girl game is to hide that. Don't let them know you care. And so I just was trying to say, I hope this isn't inconvenient that I'm, like you. And just trying to, on both sides of the sexual experience, trying to say, here's who I am. Here's who I want to be. Here's who we are. Here's who we want to be. We want to be the kind of people who can talk about everything.
So for us, very simple things like saying, hey, that was great earlier. I care about you. Let's sit down for a minute. I'm going to reach over and touch you. Those are very simple things that are very, I think, integral to our own integration process. You know, we make sure we don't just disconnect afterwards. We're very busy and we do disconnect physically, but we make sure and keep coming back to each other and keep reinforcing what it is that just happened.
So I think this again is part of what's wrong with the 20-minute model that we've all been sold, which is that it's actually goes much further before and after than we realize. So I think your idea that there's an integration process is a great one, because if we saw that sex, even if it's 20 minutes, which nothing wrong with that, it's 20-minute sex is great, but if you realize it's extended before and after. I remember reading somewhere once, some male forum I was reading, and the guy goes, how long do I have to do foreplay? The guy goes, you should start in the morning if you want to have sex at night. You know, it's like, it's an ongoing process. You know, we see, because we rarely stop, we rarely have those type of orgasms that make us up. We see that we're always making love, and we're just doing it physically at these 15 minutes.
We never say we're stopping. We always say we're taking a break.
Yeah.
We
don't ever stop making love. We just take a break for a while.
So it's about expanding the context. To me, it's about that. When you're working with people, you're always expanding the context and adding more to make things better. And to us, it's expanding the context so that our lives is a process of making love with a lot of other things included as well.
And keeping in mind that afterwards, part of your integration experience is that your partner's feeling very vulnerable. And depending on how much work they've done processing out their cultural programming and their own personal trauma, they may be feeling very insecure and vulnerable. And you can do a lot with opening up a conversation about that, or telling them they're beautiful to you, or acting in a nurturing way, but realizing that that's probably the state they're in, and how do I want to deal with that?
And that goes directly to your question about memory reconsolidation, because there's a reason they're feeling vulnerable. They might not realize that's the reason, but something's coming up from the past. And if someone intervenes at that moment, they can help reconsolidate that memory. They can help make the past a little bit better and heal that just by their presence.